Hi everyone, it's Hans here, the founder of Cappuccino, and welcome to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, a podcast created to allow a space for open, honest and vulnerable conversations with real people, all over a beautiful cup of coffee. We're here in my home, so I'll be providing the flat whites, and my guests, they'll be providing the insights. So grab a coffee for yourselves, take a moment, and I hope you enjoy this latest conversation. Thank you, take care, and enjoy. Jo, hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for taking the time to come and have a chat.
Oh, thanks very much for having me.
Right. No, that's right, yeah, and to invite you into my house for the first time.
It's great to see it.
Yeah, it's been like 2 years now. Time goes very fast.
Time does fly when you're in a new property, I think.
100%. But yeah, so obviously I've known you for quite a while. I think we were probably like 14, 15 when we first met.
That sounds
which
about
is
right.
longer ago than I probably
you like
want
to admit.
Yeah. Yeah. So and but I know you know my partner Freya quite well as well. I think you like dance together, and dancing is obviously something that's a big part of your life. But for those who don't know who you are, don't know what you do, you're right to give like a very brief introduction, and then we'll kind of like dive in.
So I'm a professional ballroom and Latin dancer. I've started on Dancing with the Stars in the Netherlands, and just recently took my student on Britain's Got Talent, where we made the live semi-finals in our performances. So I'm a full-time dancer and teacher.
Amazing. So dance is you.
Is every day, all the time, every day.
All the time. No, that was so kind of mentioned it there, and I kind of experienced a little bit of the world of dance for the first time really this year, and that was through the Strictly Brackley that you kind of hosted, and for me it was an incredible experience to kind of not just for myself to learn it, but almost I've heard a lot about obviously your dance and stuff, but to kind of see it in action.
It's very different experiencing it, I think. Watching it on the telly is great, or seeing other people take part, but it's such a different thing to be a part of, and it's such a whole world within itself.
Yeah, definitely. It was incredible. So, dance, when did you start dancing?
I've always danced. I remember I have very, very early memories of being in a very small church hall in Tyler's Green, and I started actually with a little ballet class. Okay. Although I can't say either my sister or I took to that, so we very quickly, but I would probably have been 2.5 or 3.
Okay.
I was the photos very little, literally little dot, and then we went to another dance class very shortly after that, where we started doing all sorts of bits. But I did freestyle mostly in my youth, which is a bit like rhythmic gymnastics. And then I took ballroom and Latin more seriously when I was 16, because the sort of shelf life on freestyle dancing is quite young, like gymnastics. And I knew I wanted to dance for longer, so I knew I needed to. I dabbled a bit in ballroom and Latin, but I knew if I wanted to keep pursuing competing and dancing, then that was a longer career span than the freestyle. At sort of 16, you've got another couple of years, and then it's sort of into the teaching route. So I was very keen to keep going and keep competing.
Yeah. Amazing. So it was, like you say, from as soon as you were walking, pretty much you were dancing. And at 16, when you kind of started to look at the Latin ballroom, at that point, so that was almost similar time that I first met you, and I knew you were into your dancing and you were keen, but at that point, did you know that was what you wanted to do, almost?
I always wanted to teach.
Or it was just a passion at that point?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. Like, I always wanted to teach. When I was little at primary school, I wanted to actually become a primary school teacher.
Okay.
I absolutely loved it. I used to be such a teacher's swot, and just loved anything I could do to help the teacher, like handing stuff out and doing all of these things. And I loved that. And then I realised that as a primary school teacher, how much paperwork there was, and how much actually away from impacting children your job is. It's not just teaching, and actually in a class of 30 it can be quite impersonal. I mean, my primary school teachers were amazing, but you don't have that contact to be able to make the influence, whereas I knew through dance and through other things you could work with smaller groups, and you could work with adults as well as children, and you could work with people from all different backgrounds, so it offered much more diversity for teaching than a school or a year group or a select group did. So when I moved at 16, it was to kind of, I knew ballroom and Latin was something that all age groups did. Ballroom and Latin was something that, you can literally the age range is 3 to 300, you know that, and anywhere in between. So I thought, if I'm going to go down a career of teaching dance, this is a great discipline and style to do it in, because it offers me a lot of opportunities. And I really wanted to win the IDTA medalist championships. That was my goal at 16, to go on and try and do that. And it was only when I achieved that I went, oh, well, maybe I'd like to do a bit more. And it's kind of always been that. Like, that's how my career's moved forwards, is I've always wanted to be ambitious, and I've always wanted to try new things and push the limits. And I was talking to someone the other week, and they said, isn't it funny? Every goal you achieve, you then look for the next one. And what you forget is that the goal you've just achieved was the one you wanted. So this goal of my career, actually, I achieved many, many years ago. I wanted to win that championships, and I did that. And what I do now has just stemmed from the back of, oh, well, I've done that, so what shall I do next?
Almost, how can I push myself? Or
what
can I achieve? What is the
What's
ceiling?
the next
What's
goal?
the limit?
Where's the limit? And I think that's what's really exciting in a career, and can be very daunting. I mean, there's a double-edged sword. It offers you the opportunity that in the industry that I'm in, there is so much to achieve, just not just as a dancer, but as a teacher and as a mentor or as a judge. But that can feel a bit daunting, because it does feel like the sky's the limit, but there's never that end goal where you feel satisfied. But I think that's your mentality more than the career itself.
No, and I think that's something that I'm sure other people who dance will be able to relate to that, but also in any walk of life, really, that when you have a goal or you want to achieve something, that's how it all starts, isn't it? Like that one goal, and then you build on the next. Like, you can never go from 0 to 100, really. And I think it's remembering that, but remembering and giving yourself credit for what you've achieved so far.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my career now. It can be easy
to just look forward.
Massively. I look at all the things that I've achieved, and all I think is, oh, what should I do next? Where should I go? What should I do? And there was a lovely little quote on one of the social medias the other day that was like, did 5 years ago you think you'd be here? And the answer was no. So it's also very quick to lose sight of all the things. There's lots of things that I've done in my career that I just never I dreamed but never thought could be my reality. So it's balancing that. It's balancing the enjoyment of the projects that you've done and the things that you've achieved with the pushing yourself and wanting to achieve that next level or that next goal or whatever that next thing is.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
No, amazing. And you say about things you've achieved. So you mentioned there about going on Dancing with the Stars in the Netherlands.
That's the one.
And so it's like Strictly Come Dancing, isn't it? It's the Dutch.
It's exactly the same. It's the same franchise, and they do them in lots of different countries around the world. So I was very lucky to be on the Dutch one, which was fantastic. It was the opportunity not just to work on a show like that, but also to live in another country, which is something I'd not done until that point.
And that kind of growth and just an experience in itself, which is as daunting, if not more, than the actual show.
It was
dancing is maybe your comfort when you were out there.
So that was the thing I knew, and everything else was strange, like what side to drive on the road, and silly things like I was talking to someone who's living out there now. You're in one of the supermarkets, Albert Heijn, you can't use a debit or a credit card, so you have to have cash or a Dutch bank account. So even like buying groceries and the life side of living somewhere else. So the dancing side was all set out and all mapped out by the show, and all of that was very easy to understand. And like you say, that was the normal, that was the bit that I knew how to do. It's the lifestyle, it's where you get your groceries from and where you're living, and the fact that everyone around you is speaking another language, and getting used to where do you like to go for a walk and where do you like to go for a run, and finding the local gym and local places to go out and things eat and to socialise, and things that in your own home life you take for granted until you go and live somewhere else, and then everything is very new.
Changes. No, you took the words out of my mouth about that, take for granted, and I think it's probably amazing, as you say, even that experience, the experiencing the Netherlands and all that, but almost maybe then when you come home makes you appreciate all the home comforts as well. Things you took for granted at home, like, oh, I can pop and see family. Oh, this is my local walking route. This is a place where
It's having that cup of tea or coffee chat doesn't exist when you live that far away from people, whether that's in another country or even in the same country. And I think it's that inability to be able to just pop round. There's something really wholesome, like you're not having a fantastic day and somebody just pops in, and that half an hour visit doesn't even need to be long. It's that half an hour someone's just checked in on you and it makes you feel a lot more supported. And my colleagues were great, and I made lots of lovely friends out there, but it's not quite the same as it being your sister or your parents or your boyfriend, or, that home comfort of that person popping in and just checking up on you. And I think you learn a lot when you live away like that. It definitely develops you. I developed in my career, but I would say it was probably one of the sharpest learning curves personally as well.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience, but there were days when it was hard. And it was hard to come home. Because also, just as I was getting into this fabulous life and found my social group and knew where to go for dinner and where to go for walks, and then it's all whipped away again and
just
you're back home.
Just as you start to feel,
you're like
embrace it.
Yeah, just as you're finding your feet and everything's... I was out there for 4 months, so just as everything was starting to really settle down, I was really getting into my stride, you come home again, and there's a loveliness to coming home, which is family and comfort and what you know, but there's also an alienness to it because it's continued when you've not been there. So it's trying to slot back into the world that's continued
what
to
you've
move.
missed a little bit. And almost maybe it's obviously the adrenaline would have been high when you're out there performing and being like the professional dancer and very busy probably, and you almost had quite a structure when you were there. So then maybe the coming back home and then almost maybe having a day and you're like, oh, what
Dancing's
do I
a
do
really
now?
hard career with performing, like anything that has a end goal, in the sense that every week we were preparing for a show, and that's really exciting, and then you get this real build at the weekend and you do this fantastic show and you get all this emotion, all this adrenaline, and then on the Sunday you always feel very blue because all that emotion comes back down, but it's fine because you're going back into another week and you're going back into another week, and then when you come home it's completely flatlines and life is not that roller coaster of emotions, and it's actually really training your body again to get used to the fact that this state of calm and this not constant adrenaline roller coaster.
To be calm.
That's okay, and you don't need to feel guilty for that, and you don't need to find things that make you have that adrenaline.
That similar buzz or that similar.
It's almost an addiction, I guess.
Addiction to the adrenaline, the performing, and it happens a lot in football. Obviously, I work in football. More so, I would say, not necessarily end of season and things, but you see it a lot with when sports people retire. I don't know, I imagine similar with dancers
it's
are used to that.
Lifestyle.
When you retire, like nothing can replicate that performing on stage in front of an audience and just enjoying the dancing. Like you can dance at class and things, but the actual performance bit and the competition, I guess, is the bit you can't replicate.
Like you found it Strictly Bradley. The training is great, the training is lots of fun.
But it's
not the same as doing it live on the night with the audience, all that adrenaline going. It's now or never, and this is your moment. And no amount of training, you can come back and do lots of training, but no amount will ever
matches the buzz, and whether it goes well or not, whether you fall over or not.
We've all been there.
But I don't mind. I bounced back up. It was fine. Still got my little glitter ball.
Always about the recovery. I love it.
Still got my glitter
ball.
No,
it's funny. Nathan and I did a show the other week, and we performed our same routine that we performed on the semi-finals of Britain's Got Talent. And the walkover is always a very stressful is the wrong word. There's always a little bit of apprehension because it's the riskiest move that we do. I knew when we got into the semi-final that if we wanted to final, we needed to pull out something special, something different to what we'd done in the audition. And we'd not done any kind of lift or trick. And we're not allowed to do that for our normal competitions where I compete with him. So it's not a skill set that we've worked on. But when I spoke to him about it, he was so excited to give it a try because he sees Guy and I do all our lift training. And he was so excited with the responsibility that he would get to do one, and we worked really hard on it. But no matter how hard you work, lifts are always a very risky part of dancing in terms of they're so easy to get wrong or to not quite, the momentum doesn't quite flow as it should, and then that makes the lift very awkward. And in the dress rehearsal we actually fell, and I posted it on my social media, and I was saying, you can do all this practice in the world and all the practices have been going perfectly, but with the lights and the pressure he was just feeling it and he just wasn't getting the connections. Thankfully, due to a little bit of dance magic, the night was perfect. But we did a show actually the other week at the Dern Gate, and the walkover went brilliantly. And then as he slid through my legs, he just slid into the back of my knee instead of through the gap. So which completely took my leg out, and down we went. And he rolled over, we jumped straight back up, we're straight back on with the next bit. And I said to him, and it's a motto I have with my students that I try to remind them of, is we were still brilliant. his performance was still brilliant, even though it wasn't perfect. And that's really okay, because perfect performances aren't always brilliant. And it's learning that those two aren't the same thing. And it wasn't a perfect performance. Yes, we fell, but people won't go away and say, oh, you know, everybody came off and said how brilliant it still was, how fast the recovery was, how great he was after it happened. And that's what people will take away and remember. And you may do a perfect performance and everyone forgets it, because actually, although it was perfect, it was a bit nothing to it. So I always say to my students, just be brilliant. Not perfect, brilliant, because that's a better thing.
Love that. That's the one I'll definitely remember. Especially if ever I try again and fall again. But no, it was I can use that word, a brilliant experience. And I know something that, and I guess we should talk about how I kind of got involved. So obviously we kind of know each other, and actually it was during the lockdown time we kind of caught up. Probably the first time we'd seen each other in a long time. A long time, and we were kind of just catching up. And I think that was the first time we'd met since I'd kind of started Cappuccino and started doing some work for Restore, which are the charity that I support, and they're the charity which also the Strictly Brackley was for. So when you kind of got in touch about that really, it was amazing. It kind of meant a lot, even that you're thinking of that charity, because I know it's they're an Oxfordshire charity, a bit of Brackley, and it's a cause that I obviously champion, and to be able to not just dance and perform but have it for that cause was really, really special. Is there, if you don't mind asking, that cause, why that meant so much to you, or why you wanted to?
It's super personal for me. I'm such a believer in the links between physical and mental health, and that actually, in order to have good physical and mental health, you need both. And I think the thing is that if you're struggling with your mental health, that's very separate from your physical health, and actually the two run hand in hand and can really help each other. And dance is just such a fantastic way, and like you said, yours is football, mine is dance. There's so many active sports and activities out there for people to do, and it just really boosts how you're feeling. You can come to a class and feel really low and feel really isolated, and then by doing an hour's dance class or an hour's football and whatever, and you've got all those emotions going, you've met people, you've talked to people, and by the end of an hour you're feeling in a totally different, your body feels better and your mind feels better for that hour activity. So for me, mental health charities are really important. It's something that I struggled with as a teenager, with my mental health and sort of understanding how to manage it, and it massively influenced my confidence in dancing, not always feeling fabulous about myself. It's then very, very difficult to go out at competitions and exude that level of confidence.
Because it's part of the show, isn't it? It's
massively.
It's part of the you're performing for people. But no, and it's something, as you said, at that age, and when you're kind of essentially teenagers, I guess you're trying to discover who you are in this world. And we were probably lucky in a way that compared to the generation now, I feel there's even more stresses or social. Everything's connected. Everything you do, it seems to be compared to someone else, and everything. There's a lot more pressure. But,
it's really hard. It's the comparisons. I think, like you say, in our teenage years, it wasn't great. But it wasn't awful. Social media was only just coming around.
It was just kind of like Facebook, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really?
A little bit of MSN and a little bit, and it was more chatty online.
It was less photos and stuff.
Much less photos, and no videos.
No, it was just posts and messaging.
Yeah, it was a lot more like, I look back at the posts that flag up from 10 years ago, and it's just a line, like a sentence. There's no picture, there's no... It was a lot of, and you used to just write on your wall, and it was just a statement like, oh, I've had bacon for dinner, and whatever else you used to write, and that was very much what it was. So yes, okay, you kind of compared a little bit how many friends you had and how many likes you
I think it was more the number bit with Facebook rather than actually how that made who you were as a person and who you are. So
I mean, I was lucky. I was never bullied through online, but I don't think I spent long enough online. I appreciate there's lots of others who were in that situation and did experience that. But I think nowadays it's so easy online to look awesome. So easy. So I can do an hour's training session and go and I can train a new lift. And for 59 minutes, that lift can go wrong. And the clip I post online is this perfect lift. And that can be a representation of 1 minute. But that's the bit that you show, and it's helping people to understand that I have very nicely shaped that to make it look very, very successful. And the reality of that very, very successful moment is all of this time. Yeah. And that's what I really wanted to show when I posted the video of Nathan and I learning the walkover. It doesn't just happen. It's not magic.
No,
We call it dancing magic and we hope that it will happen. But it's actually lots and lots of hours of hard work and lots of things going wrong. Most of what's gone right in my career is through things that have gone wrong and things that have seemed like they've been a failure or things that haven't gone well. And it's really learning how to turn them into something positive rather than think that that's the end or that's the be all and end all. And I think it's very hard. Dancers, there's a lot in our industry on how you look, which I appreciate is coming more and more into other industries with social media. But I mean, with dance, it's so prevalent. Half of what you do is about your presentation and how you come across. So there's this huge pressure on your body and on your image and on what you wear and how you present yourself and what you're seen in. And that can get really, really difficult as a teenager. It's something I'm very mindful with the teenagers that I teach, because we do wear a lot of makeup, we do wear a lot of fake tan, it's part of it, and it's helping them understand it's a costume rather than it's because they themselves are not good enough the way they are.
It's not that, you're not brilliant or beautiful or whatever as you are, it's part of the packaging.
It's difficult to teach
separating
natural
that from
beauty.
who they are as a person.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
This is the dancer you, but this isn't you don't have to.
You can absolutely have no fake tan, no makeup, hair up and a joggers on, and you look just as amazing as when you've got everything in your and it's really helping them understand that both is beautiful and both have their places. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get dressed up and enjoying getting dressed up and having fun with that, but it's a character that you're creating, or it's part of the dance that you're doing, and not to feel the need to live up to that pressure 24/7. But I do find actually with a lot, and I think I was sort of the same, because I had this avenue to explore that kind of side of things, makeup and fake tan and all this kind of extra stuff. I feel like in my everyday life, I then haven't wanted to do it as much, because I get to do it on the weekends. You get to enjoy it in an environment where it's controlled and it's safe. So it sort of helps you want to do it less in everyday life, whereas those that don't get to explore it.
Yeah, maybe that's...
A lot of my friends who are getting married, it's really funny when they put their wedding dresses on and this is the first time they've worn a dress that's cost that much money. And it's like...
You're there like...
my first dress cost more than my car. And it's that... It's my reality has been very different. I mean, my dresses cost a hideous amount because they're all handmade and it's a lot of work that goes into them. So you're very used to that scenario. Someone who does not do those sorts of things, it's very special, it's very unique. And it's just everybody's reality or normal is slightly different.
Yeah, I think it's everyone's perspective, isn't it? And everyone's seeing it through a different eye. And something about perspective, something I kind of did want to ask is the world of, and because I think this happens in a lot of sports as well, like the world of dance from the outside appears very glamorous. It appears very, it is. It's glamorous, and everyone's, like everyone looks great. Everyone's like dolled up, and everyone's like having a good time dancing. So being, I guess the two shows may be a bit different, but the time on Dancing with the Stars, even the time on Britain's Got Talent, I guess there's, and I've even seen very different level, but Strictly Bradley when it's the rehearsals, okay, this is how we do the walk in, and my partner, I was paired up with Sarah, where she was shouting at me like, slow, quick, slow. I still sometimes, wake up, slow, quick,
nightmares,
slow.
Left foot, right foot, what did you say again?
So it's, what's the reality like, say, kind of like a show like that? And in terms of, it's not glamorous all the time.
Definitely not. Oh my gosh.
Like
when you're in rehearsals and you're like, the moment you realise, like, if you want to think dancing's real, so you're in rehearsals, you run down, you've got a cold, you're not feeling fabulous like you wouldn't in any job, it happens, and you're there and you're spinning and you're sweating, and as you're spinning, out of other parts of the body comes certain things, and you're desperately trying to make sure they don't land on your partner, and you're thinking, oh, this is the less glamorous side of this industry. So it's one of those, like, honestly, you're not a dancer until your snot has landed on your partner, unfortunately, which has happened many times. It's the reality of it, that you're not well all the time, and it's not as, when you're dolled up and you've got everything on, it all looks incredibly glamorous. But of course the reality behind that is all the training and all the hours and the hard work. Like, you're seeing the finished product, which is actually almost in a way the easier bit.
The work's before the night.
The work is before then. Like, the show is tough because you've got to get it right in the moment, But like, and Nathan was always joking with me on BGT. So when we went to do the rehearsals, all the rehearsals we'd done, I was making him do it 10, 20 times, like again, and training it and just keep going. And I always tried to keep it fun. But we were repeating it a lot.
Yeah.
And when we went to do one of the run-throughs, we did it twice. And he said to me, are we going to do it again? I said, oh no, they're done. And he went, oh, they're nicer than you. They don't make me do it that many times. And he was like, and then he laughed.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's that's the point. Like the hours that we put in, just the pure hours that we put in behind the scenes.
Means you're ready for when that moment comes.
Means that when we had the rehearsals and they're really good. You get really good time on the Apollo stage to actually go through everything. But compared to the hours and days and weeks that we'd done to prep it, it's a very short rehearsal in comparison, and then on the night it's your 2 minutes. You're on, the music comes on, and off you go, and you sort of you don't realise until you hit the finish line at the end, and you're like, okay. And it's all done so fast.
No, it's such a good just insight or lesson for it, as you say. Any thing, performance, or even like say presentations, people do at work or interviews. It's the
same
hours
reality
that you don't see.
Yeah,
and I think that's why. I find it quite funny when people say, "Oh, like they're so lucky to be," I don't know, young. Again, I'm going to use my world that I know. Young footballer gets signed for a Premier League club. I don't know. Oh, they're so lucky that he's just broken onto the scene. He's probably been playing since he was about 6 or 7. His parents have been driving him around the country, going to competitions. Like he's not just broken onto the scene. Like there's all the work and people. Again, it's that thing with social media, and you see people's highlights. That
my favourite one recently that I've been looking into is Joe Wicks, because obviously he's fantastic, and everyone's like, he's an overnight superstar, and his own description is the 10-year superstar, as in you've seen me do the last part of my career, which is where I've gone from here to here, but you haven't seen the 10 years to get to, so it looks like I've. And it must have been the same with people like Jamie Oliver and people like that. They suddenly became very famous very quickly, but they didn't become a chef 2 weeks before.
No.
They have been doing that for years, whether it's sport or whether it's a skill like that, whatever your discipline is. Yeah. You know, Nathan and I have danced together for 3 years, and he joined with another Strictly in the years before that. Yeah. You know, we've been dancing together a while before we went
it's
on
and did BGT. It's not like you just
BGT.
met and then you're like, oh.
No, and I, you know, this is where Strictly is amazing in the sense that they do just meet, and they have some training, of course, but it is quite a short, sharp turnaround, and people don't always appreciate, as you've now found, it takes so much time just to learn one dance, and they're doing it week in, week out, changing the dance, changing the rhythm, it goes on. Yeah. And as these shows go on, this is where BGT was a little bit different to Dancing with the Stars. BGT was just one show, and obviously we unfortunately didn't make the finals, so we did all that work for that one show, and then that was the end. When you do Dancing with the Stars, no sooner have you hit that highlight and you've hit the end, and you've got to go again for the next week, and you're knackered. Straight back on it, the reality is you're shattered and you need a week off. But the reality is you go straight back in and start prepping for the next week, and again and again and again. And ours was only 8 weeks. We're Strictly on the telly is a lot, like 13 or 14 weeks. Like it's a real stamina exercise, not just physically but mentally, because you do get tired, and when you're getting tired is when you're more likely to get stressed in training or things like that. You know, and naturally when you work that closely with somebody, you're going to have friction at times, or you're going to have good times, you're going to have bad times, you're going to have tired days, you're going to have good days. And it's learning to really, like Nathan really taught me, I learned so much about him. I thought I knew him very well, and I got to know him even better during the process. And with him, it was trying to find ways of motivating him, because obviously we were just doing one routine over and over again, but it was trying to keep it really interesting and really upbeat for him. So it kept engaging, because it's very easy for something like that to become very boring very quickly.
Become a chore or become a slog.
Even absolutely. Even though he adores it, because it's the same thing over and over again. So it was a real challenge for me to keep trying to find different ways. And actually, his dad, who came to a lot of the training sessions, we worked really well together to really keep that going and to really keep that buzz, and to make sure he was always really excited about it. And that was definitely a big challenge, because it's very easy for you to think, I've done this 100 times, I don't want to do it again, I've just done it enough. So it's different challenges for different projects, definitely.
Yeah, and just keep it engaging and
perform,
and then it all, as you say, dance magic on the
I mean, his face is just all the reward in the world. Like when we finished, he just looked at me with the most enormous grin, and it was every bit of hard work and everything that we'd done was just for that moment, for him to have those memories and to have shared that with him was just. I think it would be a tough thing to be in my career. I loved Dancing with the Stars. It was hugely rewarding, but doing that project with Nathan was rewarding in a very, very different way. And just seeing his face at that moment, like that was just, for me, it was just everything about that project was written in his face at that point.
I watched it again last night. I have to admit, I just like watched the clip, like the full, like the 5-minute clip or something. Wasn't it? 1.9 million views on YouTube, by the way. There you go.
There you go.
Hopefully this episode will get there soon. No.
I'll work on it. I'll work on it.
I'll be commenting on it every day. Watch it. But no, and I did watch it again, and like you say, his face at the end.
It's just
you can
pure
see
joy.
when he's just like almost hands over. I can't believe it. And from I only met him briefly, obviously at the Strictly Brackley, he was there, and even when we were in that practice and we were doing our rehearsals, and then he was scoring us and giving the comments like fabulous.
Yeah, he loves it.
So for him to actually have that experience,
I think that's where BGT offers such a unique thing as a show that's very different from the others. It's all about diversity, and actually we had the privilege of speaking to Simon after he actually came out, quite by fluke, and we spoke to us, and he'd asked us how we'd found our experience, and he was ever so sincere and ever so kind, as were all of them. I mean, Alicia came and found us after the result and came to tell Nathan what a superstar he'd been, and they just really took the effort and energy, all of the cast, all of the crew, everybody we came across, all the other competitors, like we were talking earlier, Vigo, who obviously went on to win, which was brilliant. He came and spoke to Nathan after, and it felt like a real community project, and I think that makes all the difference to your performances. If it feels very cutthroat and very, everyone's out to get each other, like some of the films like jokingly kind of portray, then it changes the whole experience.
There's always that, the way it's edited and shown.
Absolutely. But for this project, like everybody was so supportive, and it was so lovely. Like when everybody had danced, you came back to the other people who were competing in your show, the other acts, and everybody, like when someone would go out, everyone would be like high-fiving them on the way out, like good luck, and when they came back in, everyone would cheer. And it's little things like that really change an experience, particularly for Nathan, because he just really feeds on that positive energy and that positivity in the world, and it was just lovely to be part of a project that just really celebrated that and really celebrated what he did, and it was in those little moments, it was in the moments where people made the effort to speak or asked him how he'd enjoyed it or told him what a great job he'd done, that just really, it took what was already an amazing experience and just
took it to the next level.
Just completely. We couldn't have had a better time. He couldn't have loved it anymore. It was just, it'll definitely go down in history for us.
Definitely, and something to be really proud of. Like you say, we were saying earlier about the next thing, but that's certainly something I think, as you say, you would always be able to, and should be very proud of. Or I mean,
it feels really surreal. So like talking about how long we've known each other. Ashman and I used to watch it during half term, Britain's Got Talent.
Oh, so
it always used to be on in the May holiday. So like when we used to play tennis and do all of that in the holidays, like or sometimes we'd meet up as a group, but obviously you have all the shows during the weeks, and Ashman and I it became a bit of a thing that we ended up actually watching, and never at the time did I think never even when we used to watch it did we say, oh, we'll put together an act,
because you were dancing like at that time, so
and I never thought no, I want to do my competition side of things, that's the route I'll go. And he actually sent me such a sweet message when he'd done it, and he was like, I remember when we used to watch it, and
that's what's lovely, isn't it, when people were...
it feels like a bit of a full circle. Like it's really lovely that these things that you watch, like I've watched Ant and Dec since I was I can't remember how young I was when I remember them on the telly, and to meet them in person, and when they say to you things like, hello Joanne, and you're like, of course you're talking to me by name. It's really weird.
This isn't the telly, they can see you.
I know. It's just it's such a surreal, like I was trying to always be really professional with Nathan and keep it fun, but look after him, and there were these really surreal moments going on for me at the same time where I was trying to be really cool and really professional. And it's that horrible moment when Nathan turned to me and he said, quite loudly, "Is that ant or deck?" And I know which one's which until Nathan put me on the spot. And then I was like, and I got it right. But you know when you're, it was a very, it was one of those, when you're calm, you know exactly what's going on, and when you're not, you don't, and you're put on the spot like that.
No,
but they're very lovely. They were, again, also came and spoke, also came and asked how we were, and just very, very personable. It's a very personable show.
No, amazing. And something that you've touched on there, and you mentioned about watching Britain's Got Talent when you were younger and watching it, and I think and you'll probably never know the real impact, I guess, of your performance, and for you and Nathan to go up there and put on that show, there will be young boys, young girls, watching and thinking, I want to be like Joanne and Nathan.
It was
up
really
on stage,
funny.
You won't that is incredible.
Yeah.
That you inspired, or even like the show at Strictly Brackley when you were kind of dancing, and we saw you at the time didn't know you were going to be on Britain's Got Talent, so I did have a preview.
That was a hard secret to keep.
A hard one to keep, yeah. So they were like, "Oh, sorry guys, I can't be at training. I'm in Manchester."
Yeah. So obviously when we were training for Strictly Brackley, we got the call to go and meet Alicia and to go and do the audition. Yeah. And obviously even the guys that I took with me, it was a secret that we were meeting Alicia and what the project was. They didn't know. Yeah. So it was like all this secret keeping and trying to organise this and trying to get Nathan ready to perform without knowing he was going to perform. So Strictly Brackley was massively my ruse for teaching him the choreo anyway.
Yeah.
Because I said to him, like, oh, well, we need to put together the showcase because we're going to perform at Strictly Brackley. And we were, but that was actually the secondary reason we were putting it together, was secretly because we were going off to audition and he didn't know.
Oh, so if I ever need someone to keep a secret, I know it's
gosh, it was the most stressful thing of my career. I don't really do secrets or surprises in that sense. So I'm normally just very honest about what's going on. This is what, I'm very matter of fact, and we do things and it's all very organised. So having to try and keep the secret. And when we travelled up on the coach, and Nathan was sat a few rows back, because I said to his parents, like, I won't sit with him. We're going to try and keep it really low key. Like, because if we do things as a group like that, I always spend time with Nathan, but I try to always make sure all my students feel included. I'm very much don't play favourites, make sure everybody feels valued, because everybody is valued. Yeah. So I said to him, like, I won't sit with him. We don't want to arouse any suspicion. That isn't what I'd normally do. But he'd normally sit close to me. So he was sat sort of exactly where we would have been if the scenario had been totally different. And he kept going, Joe! And every time I was like, he knows. I was saying, he knows. Guy was like, chill out. As he said, Guy was sat next to me. And I was like, yes. How much longer? And all those normal questions. And he was like, and where are we going? And what are we doing? And it was so funny. It was like the normal long journey questions that you get.
But just because you
every time I was like, I have my claws in the seat, like, please don't tell me you know. And of course he had no idea. But it's that, because I'm not used to keeping secrets and surprises like that.
It feels almost like you almost feel guilty probably for
doing it.
Yeah,
I did. It was that. It's like, I'm lying to you, but this is a good lie that I think you're going to really enjoy. But it also feels a little bit deceptive, because there is a little bit of a white lie. But I mean, he said to me after, he said, that was the best secret. And it was like, that was really nice to hear that after, that he'd really enjoyed it and it was really good fun. But no, talking about the impact with people, Nathan's made a huge impact. I was ready for people to enjoy our dancing, but I wasn't really ready for the messages about life. And after it all aired, through our social media pages, I received some beautiful messages from various people who have others with disabilities in their lives. I received messages from expecting mothers who knew that they had Down syndrome babies on the way or other disabilities on the way. And they were talking about that their fears have just been subsided because of what they've seen. They were worried about what the world would be like for their child and what the impact, and would they have equal opportunities or any opportunities, and they said it was really scary and it was really daunting. And they said just seeing Nathan and seeing that everybody was really behind him, and seeing that there was a whole dance school that appreciated him and wanted him, and he was a big part of the community. They said it just made them feel that there will be opportunities. The world has changed. The world is moving forwards. I think that for me was a really rewarding part of the experience that I just hadn't thought about and hadn't prepared myself for. And of course we received lovely messages like, we love watching you dancing, and they were all super, but the ones from people that it had really impacted their lives, because it is their everyday life. You know, at the end of the day, for Nathan's parents and for Nathan, that's their world, that's their life, and it's different, and some things are better and some things are challenging, and I talk very openly with Tom and Fee, you know, about their lives and what it means for them. And one of the things Nathan would love to do is Nathan would love to drive. But obviously that's not a possibility. However, Nathan's dad is a taxi driver, has his own company. So we always say, but you get chauffeured everywhere. And it's one of those, like, when in my situation, I'd love to be chauffeured everywhere. But you want what you don't have, in the sense that I can drive and we have the freedom to drive. And we were talking very openly, and I've spoken with lots of other people, and sort of spoken really about the reality of what it means to live with a disability. I've spoken to people with disabilities themselves, or their carers or family members, and it's really opened my eyes to different people's worlds. I mean, I teach students, but that's very different. You spend a very small period of time. Teaching someone for an hour is not seeing the life that they're living. And it's really opened my eyes to that side of things, and that was really just a really lovely part that I hadn't expected was going to be part of the journey.
Amazing, and it shows, again, like the difference, say, that you're making in Nathan's life, not just the dancing and everything, but just being there and that support and welcome him into the dance school. But I think as well, with the performance and the messages you were getting, which is so wonderful. Like you say, that's almost, as you say, it wasn't what you would entered to do. It was just to dance, and because it's a passion and you love dancing. But I think it just shows the importance of visibility as well. The importance. We talk about it a lot at work, and that if you can see it, you can be it. So for those kids at home or something, they see Nathan on the screen dancing and they think, wow.
It's something I preach to my students, that anybody can do it. You don't have to be a world champion to love it, to enjoy it, to showcase what you do. And it's very easy to preach that, but it was so rewarding to be in a position to actually get to demonstrate, not just preach it, but demonstrate it and be a part of that, and really, really showcase that. Like, Nathan is amazingly talented at what he does, and it's really showing people that everybody has talent in their own field, whatever that is. Everybody's got their own uniqueness and their thing that they're good at, and it's being confident enough in life to go and explore what that is, and to feel that there's a world that will accept you for exploring that, and not feel like, oh, because I'm this kind of person I can only do these things, and because I'm this kind of person I can only do these things. That actually you have the opportunity, even if you're not from that supposed walk of life, that actually you can go and try that, you can go and explore that.
And it's okay if you fail as well.
And
that's
it's
the thing,
really
like
okay.
you said about the biggest successes come from failures or things going wrong. Or I mean, I guess for me, the example of that is that my burnout, my breakdown, my having to give up my PhD is what led to me starting Cappuccino, discovering mental health and starting to talk about it. And now got the podcast, it's just, I feel much more comfortable. Like, I feel like I'm me now. I wasn't me for like the first 22 years of my life.
And there are things that you'd never have done if you'd have pursued that route.
No, I'd still be there now, maybe just, working away, thinking I'm doing what I should, rather than what I'd want to do. So.
I think it's a very difficult thing to find a balance of, and we talked about this earlier in terms of when you finish one project, you go on to the next. And I think there's not enough value to just enjoying who you are, exploring who you are, and just plateauing. And it's really, plateauing can be a real step forwards, although it sounds
which I
like
struggled
it's
with,
not.
because I was always like an achiever. What am I doing? And
I'm
stability,
massively that.
Like, if you change perspective from plateau to stability, that's a very big difference.
And consistency.
Consistency sounds good.
Waking up every day and actually feeling that today's an okay day, rather than having a lifestyle where today's a great day, but the next day's an awful day, and then the next day's great, and this roller coaster, which is very unpredictable and then very hard to sort of find happiness in, because it's so up and down. Actually finding this level of stability and consistency in your life, and it's something I try to create as a teacher with my students, and then you try and learn as a skill from what you're teaching. Like, there's something really rewarding about teaching. You're sharing what you do with others as a total hypocrite at times. Totally as a hypocrite, which you didn't realise when you were learning from people. You'd never realise that perhaps the things they were teaching you were the things they were working on or struggled with, and it's something really rewarding as a teacher, that as you're offering that support and stability for others, you're also offering it for for yourself. So like before we went on to do any performance, there's always a level of nerves. Like no matter how many shows I do, no matter how many things I do, I want to do a good performance. I want to do well. I want to enjoy it, but I also want to impress the audience and really deliver and really show my skill. But being there with Nathan, the day was focused on him and making sure he was okay in a way that just totally distracted me from how I was feeling. And then in the one moment where I suddenly went, oh my gosh, what am I about to do? And then the reality dawned.
Because almost you were up there as well.
I was up there with it. Like you are right there in the thick of it. Like there is no, and also there's that slight pressure in a different way where I wanted to do a good job for him. If I was there to audition for me and you go wrong, it's just for you. But
you're there as the professional, you're there as the dancer.
I'm there to support him in what he's doing. And the last thing I want to be doing is doing anything that jeopardizes that or hinders that. And that moment before you go on when you think, oh my gosh, here we go, what we're about to do. And then his little face just looked at me and he just gave me this little grin that looked slightly scared, but also quite happy about what we're about to go and do. And that just totally settled me in a way that if that performance had been just for me or just about me, that I wouldn't have had that settlement. And actually it really, that's why I enjoyed dancing with him. And that performance was really raw because all of that normal feelings that I have when I perform for me had just gone. And I just think from dancing with him, I've learned so much and find a lot more of that calmness in my own performing. And as I've done pro-am with my students and really try to take it into the performances I do with Guy or on the other projects I do, and I've really found through teaching others and through helping others, it's really helped and enabled my own dancing and my own performance in a really positive way. So it's funny, you teach as a total hypocrite.
So make sure you're doing this and you're always confident in this. I mean, I even say, like, when I say it's not teaching, but the message I tried to get across is exactly the same. I can be a massive hypocrite. And I'll say first to say it here, and that's almost what I want this space to be, is honest. And like, when I'm saying self-care, not selfish, or it's important to take time for yourself, I'm there working a full-time job, volunteering at the football club, recording a podcast.
Wondering when your next 5 minutes off
when my next 5 minutes off is going to be. And this is actually the final interview. Interview sounds a bit full. Final conversation of this series, and then this is the 10th conversation in like 2 months. And
it's time consuming.
It's time consuming, but also then editing it and some of the conversations, touch more like heavy topics, or it's like when you have a real conversation, I call it like a deep conversation, rather than just it's raining outside.
Yeah.
Like, it can be like mentally,
it does
can be like mentally tiring, and I'm wary of I say all this stuff, get not selfish, so have a bit of a break and then we'll come back in the winter. But similar,
teaching does the same.
Teaching,
you do have to find that balance, because I always want to give so much to my students, like you to each of your chats and to each of your conversations. You want to give 100%. And like you said, I always try to teach with honesty in the same way you do. So although we teach as a hypocrite, I always say to my students, I feel the same. I get it. Like I never try to mask the hypocrisy. I try to use it as a way of showing that we're all in the same boat, and it's learning how to manage that.
You almost embrace it.
Absolutely.
Learning together, and
Absolutely.
That journey of learning never stops.
Yeah, and no matter where you get to, you'll still be trying to improve those things. And actually that should be a really empowering thing rather than a daunting thing. And that's the mentality change and trying to really encourage that. But I find the same with teaching. I have to have time out, and when you're self-employed, it's really, really easy, because your phone is your personal phone and your work phone. You find it very, very quickly to blur the lines, and having that time out can be really, really difficult. And it's definitely something I get right sometimes and very wrong at other times, and you do have to find that that balance, I think, between giving and it being very rewarding, but also learning to give to yourself, like, with your self-love. Otherwise you have nothing left for others, and then it all doesn't work. So after Strictly Brackley, I did take 3 days where I turned my phone off and said, thanks very much, guys. It was a great project. I'll see you in 3 days.
No, exactly.
Because it's like it builds, and it's such a wonderful project, and it's so rewarding. But you do need that time after where you're like, okay. And I've learned that with big projects, like with Britain's Got Talent and all of those. And I do lots of pro-am championships with my students, and they're hugely rewarding, but they are hugely mentally and physically draining. So you do need that time after, just to, with all kindness and love to all students, as much as their support's been amazing, you do just need that time where you can turn off and just spend time with you And actually that sounds a really odd comment, but when your head is so busy with everything you're doing, you're not actually spending time with you.
Actually checking in, how am I feeling? Like,
and do I want to go for a walk, and would I like to have lunch right now, and would I like to sit down and have lunch instead of having lunch while I'm on the move, or at midnight or at 5 a.m.
Just actually having some time to
would
yourself.
I like to sit on the sofa and put my feet up and just watch something on Netflix?
And that's okay sometimes,
that's
like
really
we said about
okay.
that consistency and just pausing for a bit.
I think that feels really sometimes like you're taking a step back, and that's just not the way we should view it. We should see that as that is the time that you need in order to be able to do the projects, then come back to that nice calmness and that nice giving yourself that time
Same
and that
as
love.
You've got to recharge, and it's the same as your phone. Everyone, it's that cliche, phones, devices. You've got to charge them up sometimes. Your car, you've got to fill it with fuel. Like, it's the same with ourselves. We can't just keep going and going and going because we burn out. But I'm probably coming towards the end. There's a question I've asked everyone. I'm going to ask yourself as well at the end. So what does happiness mean to you?
Just the answer I've got, because it's so topical at the moment, is Nathan's face. But
that's it.
That is
a
just
moment when it was just
that just for me is happiness. Like, something about his energy is just really raw, and in a way that's what his life gives to him, that pure rawness of trust and love and openness to the world, and his face just encompasses that. And I think for me, happiness is that just really loving what you're doing with no self-consciousness and with no concern for what others think and fear of what others might judge, or just dancing can become a very judgmental thing, whether you're just judging yourself or because you're entering competitions and being judged, or at the Strictly you're being judged, you're being given a score, but really doing it and not losing sight of the fact that you do it just for pure joy, because it makes your heart feel like that, and because it makes you smile like that. And just Nathan just reminds me of that when I see him smile. He just
So it reminds you of when you were almost younger and you were
when dancing was just love. It wasn't work, it wasn't a career, there was no pressure, it was literally just dancing. And I think dance is such an important part of my life and such a huge part of my life that it's very easy to forget that, and he and my other students are just a constant reminder of that. And I think happiness is just finding that thing that you love and doing it simply because you love it, whether you're good, bad, indifferent, whether you do it competitively, for fun, whether you do it once a week, 7 times a week, for 5 minutes, for an hour, like whatever that means to you, and however much time you can or want to dedicate to it,
or do more of that almost.
You do that. And I think I spent a lot of time thinking happiness will be when I achieve this, or happiness will be when I've got this, or when I've made this amount of money, or when I'm driving this car, or when I've bought this house, or when I've done this thing. And actually, the older I get, the more I realise none of those things are happiness. They're just things. And actually the people in my life, and sharing what I love to do with them, and sharing my time with them. And happiness for me is when Guy and I are dancing and we're about to go into a lift, and he looks at me and I think, please don't drop me, and he's looking at me going, don't worry, I won't. And just that finding that joy of dancing together. And my mum, taking my mum out at Blackpool, she danced for the first time ever on the Blackpool floor, and seeing her face and her joy, and just people's faces when they dance. Like, it can be when they do anything, but for me it's really personable when they dance. And seeing my sister fall back in love with dancing by coming to my classes, and it's just moments like that they're just really raw. It's just a really raw energy, and you can't fake enjoying that moment. You're either enjoying it and that's coming across, or you're not. And I just think something about that is that is happiness, when it's just bursting from you without you having any control of it.
You can't control it when you're no. Amazing, what an answer. No, thanks, Jo.
Thanks so much.
I know, obviously, we've spoken about the dance a lot, and you are an incredible dancer, obviously. But I think having known you and got to we reconnected again, I think yes, you're an incredible dancer. But like you've even said about what you've done for Nathan and the way you've inspired other people, I think for me as well. Yes, you're a dancer, but you're just an incredible person, incredible friend. So thank you as well for taking the time for this as well.
Thank you so much
sharing
for having
some of those
me.
Insights. Really enjoyed it, and I'm sure people will as well. But thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, and I really hope you gained something from that conversation. I know I certainly did. It would mean a lot if you can like and subscribe on whatever platform you may be watching or listening on, but also if you head over to Instagram and give me a follow at Cappuccino. This is the best place to contact me, but also see the latest developments on the platform as we look to increase awareness of mental health through my passions for coffee and football. In addition, if you've heard something that you can relate to or you want to talk about a little bit more, feel free to message me on that platform. But also, if you fancy coming on yourself and having a conversation, then do let me know, because I'm always keen to connect with new people and get insights into other areas and other passions and other challenges that I might have no experience of myself. Thanks again, and I really hope you tune in for the next episode. Take care of yourselves. I've been Hans. Thank you.